This is Stephen Byer from Unearthed Films.
This is Eric Stanzi.
This is Fred Vogel.
This is Krandamit Stake.
This is Scott Philip Gergens, director of 29 Needles, and you are experiencing Sadistic Cinema.
Sadistic Cinema.
Sadistic Cinema!
This is Sadistic Cinema.
Welcome, everybody, to the sickest, darkest side of the internet. This is Sadistic Cinema, and here, as always, I'm your host, David Gibson, and my life partner, my hetero life mate, Stephen Nemeth. How you doing, Stephen?
Oh, man, David. How you doing, dude? Excellent.
Man, doing good. Gonna have a fun episode tonight.
Oh, yeah, man. We've got another great guest. I don't think we've had non-awesome guests this season. But we have Vincent Turturro, director of Victor Goodview and director of the upcoming Arbor Day and a few other shorter projects that may be coming out in between those. I saw Victor Goodview at Scuff, South Carolina Underground Film Festival, where I met Victor, and it was a really wonderful film. It was a powerful viewing, and I just had to learn more about him and what's going on, and we've kept in touch over the last couple of years, and I'm so glad that he's able to come on the show now that we've resurrected it.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for that introduction. And I caught that little misnomer there. It is very common. You referred to me as Victor.
Oh, did I? Oh, man. Did I? I'm so
happens all the time, though. And
when I call you Vince, I don't do that. But when I go to saying Vincent, for some reason, and I'm looking at the poster and stuff, I guess I said Victor, and I'm sorry about it. I've caught myself saying that to my wife.
I have as well. I have to make sure I don't accidentally say Victor.
Listen, it's happened.
But
lawyers that have, we've dealt with regarding the film, put in the wrong name, put in Victor. I've been introduced as Victor. The film, the character in the film in write-ups has been referred to as Vincent. The title of the movie has been called Vincent Goodview,
Well, to start it off, where does the name Victor Goodview come from? Is there a special spot, or is that something that just came off the top of your head?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess calling him Victor is really no deeper than it having a similar sound to my name because of its autobiographical source material. But Goodview is just the very straightforward English translation of Buena Vista, where our protagonist lives on that street in Yonkers, and we always felt so ceremonious about the place where this film was being set, and that very street that he lives on, that we wrote it to take place on, was always such an inextricable part of the character, and because our character is so mysterious, albeit not very interesting, or we always refer to him as a tofu. There is a certain mystery about him. We really get no exposition about this guy. We really have no idea where he comes from. What is, if he has any family or friends or what. So we just know him from, right when we meet him on the John, and thereafter. So we know him as this guy, who lives on this street, and then you have to just draw your conclusions.
Yeah. Well, that's what really struck me about the character Victor. I grew up pretty poor, and I grew up around drugs my whole life. So I know kind of where he is. Yeah. I've been in weird situations like that. But Victor feels like a tourist. He's not that he's not the down white dude who grew up in the hood. He seems like he's a suburban cat who decided, started doing drugs and kind of sunk to that level. Yeah. Is that how you wrote him, and I know it's kind of autobiographical. Was it coming from? Does he come from maybe a little better off situation to where he ended up at?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, obviously it's better.
Yeah.
It couldn't get too much worse, but financially he came from
Sure.
a more financially secure upbringing.
I don't know. I don't think so, because again, I come from pretty modest background myself, so I guess that would be the default, but you're definitely right on about him not being the prototypical hipster. He's not that, he's white, and he's found himself in this ungentrified neighborhood, and often those types of people are the heralds for the hipsters, and for a place like that to be gentrified. So I think that perhaps he's mistaken as that type of a person by the likes of the other characters in the film, like Jerry,
Yeah, because it seems like he's not uncomfortable around people of different races or colors, but he also seems not to be too affluent in their culture. So it just almost seems like he hasn't been around those type of people for a long time.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, he's like the English-speaking, non-extraterrestrial white version of Brother from Another Planet.
And this might be really mysterious to the folks that have not seen the film or haven't read about it. Can you give us a quick synopsis or an intro so it kind of gives us a frame of reference for, what we're talking about for the, Victor Goodview?
Sure. So Victor Goodview is just about so many things, It's just a very rich, very plot-driven film. Being very facetious there. There's no plot. And
there's so many intricate little pieces going on.
And one of the criticisms we got about the film when we first screened it before it was locked was that this guy doesn't have a dream, and none of these characters have any dreams, but that was also very intentional. It's not just an excuse. But anyway, so try to give it a more pat synopsis. It's a movie without a plot about a man without a dream, and he's this really this vehicle that we invented so that we could capture this what we felt was this untapped environment there in downtown Yonkers, and also to explore all these other much more colorful characters that surround him, and if there's going to be any plot in the film, it's that. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, because I lost Steven's face.
You'll survive.
You're the only person who's ever been worried about that happening.
Anyway, listen. So the story begins where Victor's on the john, laboring to move his bowels. The next thing you know, the Con Ed comes to the door Con Ed shuts his power off. He runs to the door to stop them and beseeches them to give him a couple more days, which they do. The next thing we know, he trudges out to his dead-end job at which he most likely works part-time to find that the place has been shut down, and the guy is just so out of touch that he doesn't even have a phone and was completely out of it and didn't realize that he was out of a job. So from there, he goes and fills out an application at a nearby cafe, and the rest of the film really just follows the course of his day after that, and what he gets up to at night, and basically the driving force is that he has to just keep it together long enough to make it to a job interview the very next day, and he runs into a small bevy of characters on the street whom he spends time with and gets high with, and his friendships with them are suspect, but ultimately I think just kind of complex.
Yeah.
Speaking about when the power gets shut off, the toothbrush gag.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of was that first and maybe moment of like humor in it that is still like kind of tragic and like you know how he interacts with his world, you know, how he kind of grifts by, and just the implications of the whole toothbrush thing is, and I don't want to give too much away, I'm just kind of noting it to you so you know what point I'm talking about, but kind of sets up those moments of humor in the film.
Sure.
And I think the film definitely is funny when it, you know, in a very genuine way when that happens. It's not I don't consider it a comedy at all. I guess some people might have certain assumptions with it being a Troma film.
Yes.
But the film, the tone to me is watching is very bleak, and definitely about the street and about the neighborhood. And I love that, you know, Troma has a few one-offs like Victor Goodview. And it something about it reminds me of Combat Shock a little bit. Although
I was actually going to say that, Stephen. The atmosphere, you know, the grittiness, like you feel like you can smell the terrible stench, and the nihilistic view of a lot of film. I did get a feel in a Combat Shot and Shock, but this film it's its own thing. But I did get some of those same feelings because going into a Troma film, you're usually expecting something else, and Combat Shot does that to you as well. It's not what you consider your run-of-the-mill Troma film.
now I think Victor Goodview definitely has those moments that have individual gags or punchlines that are definitely in line with what you expect from Troma, or would attract Troma to it because they're irreverent moments.
Right.
I guess I could say it the best. But so, I mean, I know you spoke a little bit off air to us, but where did the concept, besides the autobiographical part of it, and maybe you want to talk about that, but tell us about how the concept started, the journey leading up to this being a film.
So yes, so yeah, as I previously mentioned, I had dropped out of school in Westchester at SUNY Purchase after a year, less than a year, but I think I continued to crash in people's rooms on campus for the rest of that year. So I was there for a year, and but after that, I had forayed into Yonkers quickly. That at the time, before there was hardly any gentrification going on there. It was still a relatively affordable place to live, right on the outskirts of New York City. So I had several stints there, and then in 2007 I wound up there indefinitely. You know, I had gone in on a basement apartment. The basement apartment that you see in the film, which is its own story, we should talk about while we're here. And we were totally out of our minds. We were just, you know, whatever, our own version of, you know, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas kind of thing, where we were just doing coke all day long and coming down on Xanax and drinking constantly. I don't think I was working at the time. I think my friend whom I was living with had a job that paid him these big like commissions. He was doing some kind of web design thing. He got these like $5,000 commissions. So I was just really freeloading off him, and he was glad to be the breadwinner of our degenerate duo. And that was pretty bleak, you know. But again, I mean, that's still different than the film itself, because we still had each other, you know. But before long, our relationship started to deteriorate deteriorate quite a bit, and he left the country, and I was left alone in this fucking, you know, godforsaken place, this basement apartment without a job. And I think similar to what you see in the film, I used to just trudge out to Central Avenue in Yonkers, and would pick up little jobs here and there. And luckily, I discovered that fast friends I made at Purchase were living in the very same neighborhood. This like group of guys, one of whom I met at Purchase, who were from, who had all migrated from France, who had all grown up together in this American high school in France, and then wound up fortuitously in downtown Yonkers. Again, one of whom I met at school and had a very intense drug connection with. And then I just remembered, I remembered my friend Adrian's living in Yonkers. Why don't I give him a call? I was desperately lonely, broke, bad shape, had all this beer weight, and that was really what saved my life ultimately. You know, I still continued to act out for years after that, but once I connected with him and then this group of guys, that led me to Jerome Rame, who was part of that crew, you know, and he had graduated film school in France and come here to work in post-production. And I don't know, I guess just whenever I was on my kicks about, you know, when I would be completely lit on coke or whatever, and just be, gotta do this, man, gotta, you know, it's like Dennis Hopper or something, you know, gotta get, you know, gotta fucking, you know. And you know, in all my incoherence, Jerome must have seen some promise or something. You know, he must have just aligned with the vision in the abstract of just tapping into that area. You know, of like being pioneers and making an indie film that was specifically about Yonkers at that present time and place. And
now,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, making this film, was this kind of cathartic for you to get, you know, past some of these demons that have been, you know, following you earlier in life?
Yes, absolutely. However, I had, by the time we really like began pre-production for the film in earnest, I had been sober a couple, like several years, you know, so I had a lot of perspective already. You know, I had just writing the film was catharsis enough. But and then, you know, making a film is so hard. it's such a trying, difficult experience to even make a short film. So I probably had less. I was, you know, my mind was less on how I was purging my personal demons than just bringing off this fucking film in this, you know, extreme heat in Yonkers, where, you know, at one or two different points during production, our whole crew was stricken with a stomach bug and had diarrhea, you know, and we didn't have the money or resources to have a separate unit for holding or anything, so we were all just using that toilet that he uses in the film.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And that's, of course, the opposite of the problem our protagonist has.
Yes.
Can't go at all.
Yes. There's some melancholy going on with Victor.
So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's the story, really. You know, Jerome was just he was, you know, he remained one of my closest friends, and we saved a lot of money, and we basically used our own money with a couple of little modest contributions along the way. Did everything legitimately, kind of faked it till we made it. You know, Yonkers was incredibly supportive of, and I think still is, of an independent film. I think they just want to attract as much of this type of activity to the neighborhood as possible, you know. So it's like that we had to go through the normal red tape of getting permits to shoot on location, but it didn't cost a dime.
So did you study film yourself?
No, I at Purchase I took cinema studies, and I was roommates with somebody in the acting conservatory, and I had two roommates and somebody who was in the film conservatory. And then I became really close with most everybody in the film conservatory. So they used to use me as an actor in some of their films, you know. So just by proxy, I used to get a little bit of an education. But no, you know, and that's definitely a regret for all you kids out there who are listening to this. Stay in school, man, you know. Go to film school, you know, it just helps you flex your muscles. I think that if you don't go to film school, then you're going to wind up learning as you go, which is okay too, but you know.
Well, I want to bring up if you watch this film and if you know anything about the drug culture, you have to see the authenticity of this film, and I feel that only somebody who's been I don't even think that you can just be associated with it. You have to be pretty deep in it to get some of the understanding to make a film like this. And I think where it really hits home is the relationship between Black and Victor. Because, you know, any of us who've been into copping drugs and hanging out in strange areas, that weirdness, that unease is there, because you don't know, is this guy manipulating me to rip me off? Is he trying to set me up? And I think you hit that pitch perfect with that relationship there.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely what we were going for. You know, I think Black's a great character too, though, because though everything you said is true, and the truth is he is taking Victor for a ride. There's no doubt about it. But he's also his friend. I think they still do really care about each other. I think Black does care about Victor, but it doesn't mean he's not going to fuck him over.
Which is weird in those relationships, and you see that in those symbiotic drug relationships, that you can be best friends, but if you have a chance to score a little bit extra on the side and take advantage, you will.
Sure. Yeah, man, I used to do it to all my friends.
How did the casting go? How did you find these people?
So that was quite a mixed bag. Great process. I really enjoyed casting. And my wife, who's puttering around the background right now, became our official casting director on the film. So yeah, Tamara, who's my wife, and we met on set. We hired her as a production assistant. So the first time we met was when Jerome and I were interviewing her. Because this is a small project and everybody wore hats, it was almost like we were hiring a pod of production assistants, but with the promise of them like discovering what they might be good at respectively, you know. So Tamara became a talented casting director. Our production assistant Josh became this like crackerjack prop master who made all the crack for the film, made the big poop. And yeah, he created the pee effect when Christine stands up on the toilet there. He did all that stuff. He was just great at that stuff, just naturally, you know. But I actually forget by the time we met Tamara and she started helping with casting whether we had cast anyone yet. But basically, Jerome had a pretty respectable job at a post house in Manhattan, at Outpost Digital, which was part of Radical Media. And Jerome's just like one of those guys that like everyone loves him. Anyone who's ever worked with him, he's just like, you know, he just like help, you know, he, especially in the post world, he just helps people do their jobs better, you know. And so they were glad to lend their facilities to us. So we were these first-time feature filmmakers who were able to conduct casting at this like legitimate production and post-production house in the city, which was just a dream come true. So yes, we used Backstage. We mined our relationships at Sarah Lawrence and Purchase, you know, people we knew and people they knew. And then we held our casting calls there at Radical, and yeah, it was pretty pretty interesting, pretty eclectic experience. So like Rick, Rick or Black, played by Kenny Borland, we met on Backstage. I don't know if you guys have ever used it, but that's like it is definitely a useful site, or device or whatever. But you got to know how to use it, because you get hundreds of these struggling actors, and you got to have the endurance and the discernment to find the right ones, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But we were very fortunate that we met Kenny via Backstage, and Tammy, who plays Jerry, for instance, she was recommended from a friend of mine, and we had her come in to read for Les, Victor's neighbor. Because as far as we understood, Tammy was Latina. That's all we really knew about her, and that's how Les was written. So Tammy came in and she did a read for Les, and she didn't really meet the description. We kind of imagined Les as having more exaggerated, physical proportions, and I don't know, there was just something a little off about it. I think it was kind of understood in the room, it was like, oh, unfortunately, I don't, without it even having to be said. But then last minute, Tammy says, hey, you know what, I really like that other character, Jerry. You mind if I do a read for her instead? And we said, sure, go ahead. So she read for Jerry, and it was just one of those stories where she blew our socks off. I think like the moment she stepped out of the room, we just said, she's Jerry. She's already brought life to that character in ways we never could have dreamed of just from one audition. So that was pretty special.
Well, the acting's so naturalistic.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's probably what surprised me the most, is that the acting was so solid. Everybody felt like they were there. It didn't feel like acting, which
Right.
I think is one of the biggest compliments you can give an actor, that you didn't feel like they were acting. So kudos to that. The performances you got were really strong.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think we just didn't over-direct anybody. They were all really good, and like, I'll pat myself on the back for the writing, but I think that they really did their own thing, and they got it, Like, Tammy was made for that fucking part. And same with Winston, who plays Victor. That was another one of those, kind of fortuitous anecdotes where we had hired Winston as our sound guy. And we were already, experiencing a shortfall in resources. So when we happened to be on the phone with him, and I don't know if we mentioned it to him or I mentioned it to Jerome in the background. Oh yeah, we have a casting session today. And he just happened to say over the phone, oh, who are you casting for? And we said, well, honestly, our lead, we have most everybody but Victor. And he said, oh, well, I'm an actor. I just do, this is just a gig, man. Can I read for it? And we were like, fuck, sure, man, whatever. We're kind of humoring him because we really needed a sound guy,
Yeah.
But then he came in and he was the best. He was the best of all. Because again, like the way Victor was on the page, we wanted to leave a little bit of a dead zone there, because he is so nondescript. Like, whether he was going to be like 19 or in his 20s or, physically, we were not, we didn't have our minds entirely made up about that. So it was really contingent on meeting the right actor to complete that part of the puzzle. And it wasn't happening for us, And, but then when Winston read, it was instant. We just knew it, And yeah, he was really great. He was the only one maybe who we did need to guide more, simply because I think the role was hard for him because Winston he's a theater guy. You know, he graduated Sarah Lawrence. We had seen him in a couple of shows, and he was fantastic, but so the antithesis of the character you see in this film, you know. So we really had to just pound him down into this taciturn shell, you know. That's what we wanted for the character. And he kept saying, but don't, you know, there's a way to do that though, where you're, you know, you still have to perform, you know. But the truth is that he did. You know, he really he was so consistent, his performance, you know. And I just think that life inside of him that was just burbling to get out is what made this otherwise dull character still interesting to watch, you know. Yeah.
I felt his discomfort throughout the film.
Yeah.
His pain with every step, and you know what he was going through there. Like like David said, it was natural. It felt genuine. So whether, you know, what he brought to it, plus with the direction you gave him, and the inspiration from the environment.
Sure.
You know, it just it felt very genuine, and I really loved seeing him in the one of the extras on the disc at that screening. And then there was a little bit of an interview with him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
right.
it was because he's very un-Victor there,
Sure.
you know, and
Sure.
you see Winston for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely great to see, you know, the other side of him, and to see that was performance that was going on there.
Totally. My wife Tamara always reminds me of that whenever we're reflecting on good old Victor Goodview times. Because she spent so much time with him when the camera wasn't rolling, and you know, they were talking about what was going on in the news and that show Cosmos, you know, and he's a hip liberal guy, Winston, you know, he's definitely with it, and and the character that he plays is not. He's not hip. Remember, you know, Taxi Driver, you don't look hip.
No.
He says, I'm hip. He says, yeah, you don't look hip.
And that's one of my favorite moments in cinema too, the Harvey Keitel conversation on the stoop.
Yeah, great.
And that's another thing that I like about this film. It's you know, the streets of, you know, New York, and you know, very specifically to this area where this comes from. But it I like films on the street. There's something about that. My favorite parts of Rocky are on the streets of the neighborhood. Right. Same with Taxi Driver and Mean Streets. You know, things I just love about those. And you mentioned just a second ago that, you know, when the cameras were rolling, and that made me think about Jerome. Was he always intended on shooting it himself, or did he step up to do that, or how did that work out? And what did you shoot this on?
Yeah, no, good question. No, absolutely not. We had somebody else entirely signed on to DP the film, and there was kind of a tragic story there. This guy whom I never actually met in person, only corresponded with through Jerome, he wound up committing suicide, actually. Oh, and man. we were all set. We were the agreement, you know, was that he was going to help us with our film, and we were going to help him with his projects that he had, in development. And then he went off to, I believe, Switzerland, I think, where he had family, and he disappeared for a while. You know, I think that it was Jerome's friend first. You know, so I think Jerome was first concerned for his friend, second, you know, honestly concerned for the film, and then ultimately it was, you know, found out that he had killed himself. But he did continue to have an impact on the film, because we used his camera and his lights and all of his equipment. You know, after an acceptable amount of time passed, it almost feels like a Larry David kind of scenario. Jerome got in touch with the family and just very frankly said, you know, how would you feel about kind of paying forward his, you know, his camera equipment? You know, we'd obviously pay for it, and they were really glad to do it, you know. So we used his DSLR Canon 5D Mark II camera. And Jerome's savvy, you know, technically, so we shot it. We had the magic lantern hack that we used, so we were able to shoot raw, uncompressed, filmic quality video. So it gave us a very flexible image thereafter in post, you know.
The 5D is my favorite DSLR to shoot with, especially when you get a flat image out of it. I love it. I've got a Mark IV, and it doesn't have a magic lantern.
Really?
Capability, or the software isn't written for that, or maybe I need to look, and maybe it is by now.
Well, no, because it's a hack, you know. So as far as I understand, you like load it onto the memory card, and you just pop that into the camera, you know. But a lot of the stuff I'm saying, this shit that I'm reeling off, is just whatever I picked up from Jerome over the years.
Well, no, it is
I am
that is
soft
that is the truth.
Yeah.
There is I've got the Mark IV of the 5, and there is a Technicolor software. Now that seems to be supported in official with permissions and things. That gives a really great image too. But Magic Lantern was the thing that set the standard for being able to use DSLRs in a cinematic, you know, texture.
Totally, yeah. And then, again, we were able to make up for so much in post because, you know, we shot, it was all natural light, and we were lucky as hell at nighttime because it just looked awesome. And, you know, using the street lights and the, you know, the incidental traffic lights, you know, all that stuff looked phenomenal. I think it was when we were, you know, it was during the day or when we were in the apartment and things were a little harsh. That's where having a flexible image in post really helped, you know.
Did you use extra lighting on the street, or is that all?
Very little.
Okay.
Very minimal. Yeah.
Because I did like the look of that and the way, you know, the street lights, you know, set everything off.
Yeah.
It looked very interesting.
Thanks. Yeah, same here.
Now,
Jerome, but just to finish the question quickly, Jerome's brother is a pretty accomplished documentary filmmaker, and he was the one who originally floated that suggestion. Jerome, shoot the film, man. You know, you guys, it's a first feature. You're trying to save money. You have a great eye. You went to film school. You know, it might give you an interesting sense of proportion for later when you're cutting it. Go for it. I said fine, and you know, and I happen to love the way he shot it. You know,
it came out good. It came out. It was shot very strong, and I enjoyed the cinematography of it. I want to get back, because you alluded to it earlier, about the apartment, which is in the film, but it's also where you once lived. But what's the story behind that?
So yeah, again, back to my, you know, not to get too deeply back into my rambling recollection of my, you know, of when I first found myself in downtown Yonkers. But when I did, it was in that apartment. And I lived there for years after that. I even stayed in that same apartment house and moved into an upstairs apartment at some point with another cast of roommates. But then it was in that apartment house that I did get officially sober, and staying there didn't last long. You know, so I moved on. I had a number of different experiences, relationships, and then but through all of that, especially because I had gotten clean, Jerome and I started to talk very seriously about, you know, like doing pre-production about making this film. So over those following years, I began to write the script, and jump forward, I wound up living with and taking care of my grandmother, my father's mother, during Hurricane Sandy in New York. and that chapter became quite protracted, and I wound up there with her during the disaster, and after that for over a year, and it was during that pretty difficult time that Jerome and I started to really lock down, when we were going to make a go of this film, and so when we started to talk about locations and where this this ineffably shitty apartment, where we would find that, how we would reproduce that, we just thought quite simply, why don't we try to get the real one?
Why reproduce it?
Yeah. And Jerome had many experiences in that place, so yeah, I still have my landlady's number in my phone, so I got in touch with her when we were really getting serious about this thing, and she was into it. The place happened to be unoccupied. I was very straight with our intentions. I just had to sign a lease, and it was with the condition that if I broke it, I would have to sacrifice a deposit, but that was always going to be a possibility. So, the winter before the summer that we shot the film, I moved in there myself. I went back that December, and I lived there from December to when we started production in July.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that when you.
Yeah. And then I kept the place after that. When I first started dating Tamara, who is now my wife, we first started to hang out in that dump, that she had obviously had some affection for because of the experience on the film. But once we started getting really serious with our relationship, I think it was only a matter of time before I got the fuck out of there again, And I had also got my TV stolen, even at that point. Even after the film was made and I was still living there, I left for a weekend and came back and my fucking TV was gone,
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was for real. I mean, that place was for real. We did have a pretty talented like art director / set designer who touched it up a bit, but most of it we didn't really have to fabricate,
Well, while we're talking about the production there, what is it like working with Elena?
Now Elena worked in a very limited capacity on Victor Goodview because she was still pretty young then, and she's just such a hard worker, and she's always such a hustler no matter what she does. So whenever she did help out on that film, it was much appreciated. But then she went on to, be a pretty kick-ass production assistant on bigger TV sets and things. What's up? Quiet?
Not you.
No. Okay.
My son.
Yeah.
My son broke in.
But
I forgot you could see me on camera.
But this latest film feature of ours is Elena basically took the place of Jerome for Arbor Day, So I think I work better with a partner anyway. And Jerome and I were, cheek to jowl on Victor, and Elena and I are with Arbor Day. And she's just, she has different strengths than Jerome, but again, aside from it being a pleasure to work with her, she's an asset in so many ways because she actually poaches all these people from these bigger productions to work on our much smaller film. So we get some pretty talented cast and crew.
Where's Jerome now? Why is he not involved in this venture?
He just has a much more demanding job at a bigger post house in the city at Harbor. They have they're one of the bigger finishing houses. Studios.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's just swamped, man. But he's always there, and anyone who knows him, who is working on this other film, whenever we're able to like get him involved in any way, it's always an inspiration. And I guess this is this is as good a time as any to mention that we are right now in pretty vigorous pre-production for a Victor Goodview spin-off project of sorts that's
really
set to be shot in August. But it's a short. It is a scene-length short that features two of our characters from the film, and for this, Jerome is very heavily involved. I think he's just, again, he's,
Now, is the short is
yeah.
is this possibly leading to more things in the future, or
Perhaps there is a mammoth sequel written in the can that just been sitting on for a while, but this has no direct connection to that. However, it could one could inform the other.
Okay.
So
now I had a question. The relationship I found strange in the film that kind of made me scratch my head a little bit was the one between Leslie and Victor.
Sure.
Where are they supposed to kind of have some kind of relationship that's not really disclosed? Is she just like some kind of fucking weirdo? Is there some kind of a experience that comes from? Because that was the one that I was like, what the fuck's up with this girl?
Yeah. Well, those are all correct questions. I think any history between these characters, you definitely have to you have to investigate that for yourself. I think especially with Rick or with Black, it's hinted at, but how much history, it's not disclosed, But yes, a fucking weirdo for sure. You are right on about that. The way I look at it is that it's a food chain. This story, this string of characters. It's a food chain of losers, and I don't think loser is a nice term, but they're just these unfortunates, and I feel like her behavior towards him is the behavior that occurs when somebody who's who's less fortunate meets somebody who's even less fortunate than they are. They feed on them, they take advantage of them. And probably if Victor was normal or something, he'd probably just get laid or something with Les. It wouldn't probably, but he is so fucking dysfunctional and inept that he, I guess to if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, he's just not interested.
She reminds me. I know people that take a lot of liberties with people around them and feel very comfortable no matter where they are, to the point of creating these very awkward, interactions. And so it kind of hit home as one of those kind of characters. But it also did feel like there might have been some history that leads her to that comfort. But but that's also the mystery of Victor too.
Totally.
We don't really know.
Well, that also leads into Sanders' sequel. You're able to make a feature without showing many of your cards. So there's so many directions that you could go with this.
Totally. And I don't mind divulging it, honestly, but basically that's one of the bigger features of this big tome of a script I have, is that is the sequel. The relationship between those two, actually, between Vic and Les, it just felt right. She's not even my favorite character, honestly, Les. I prefer Rick or Jerry. They're much more fun, But the way that the script happened, the way the story unfolded, it just didn't happen that way, Something. Yeah. Without actually giving this away, but something more maybe unfortunate happens with those other more likable characters, and the premise is that it's Vic's. You get to see futile or not an attempt at some kind of normalcy by Victor, more so than what you got in the first film.
And not to give away the ending, but it is so subtle.
Yeah.
And me and Steven actually discussed this earlier today, because I guess it's also left open for interpretation. But kudos to how subtle that you left it. In that last shot, that last scene was pretty powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
I think it really goes back to the genuineness of, feeling that type of lifestyle and despair. It's like how do you break away from it? What power your cravings have over you, and how they get in the way of every part of the direction you can go in life. And that's as specific as I want to say my feelings about that, because I definitely want our audience to have a spoiler-free, viewing on the end of this film. But it does have some implications, more so than just what does or doesn't happen right then in that moment, with the psychology of the character and with addiction, and how hard it is to not be self-destructive.
Well, Victor feels to me like the character overall, just a personification of how easy it is just to stay in a downward spiral than try to dig yourself up out of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Dave, you lived that way. I've lived that way. Steven, I'm not sure what your experiences are, but I mean, like, that's how it feels. It feels pretty everlasting while you're in it. And that's why I think, going back to something I mentioned earlier, we didn't want this to be some after-school special where all these characters have all these broken dreams that they're talking about. We wanted it to be this very specific snapshot of this time, this juncture in their lives, especially Victor.
And it doesn't even feel like it's even anti-drug.
Right.
It feels like you're taking a subjective view of just a slice of Victor's life, and you're not really judging him either way.
Right.
Was that specific when you were writing the script, that you were trying to come off as not being judgmental of this character?
Absolutely. Yeah, we always said we don't want it to be a drug movie. We just want it to be something that they do. It's just a part of their how they spend their days. But people who watch the movie who don't like the movie are very judgmental. And don't understand it at all. I think the film tends to be polarizing if you can't at all cull something from your own life. If it becomes too specifically about the drug use or the perverse situations in the film, I think it turns some people off.
Because it's not exploitation at all.
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel it's an exploitative film.
Yeah.
Even though some might lump it into like an exploitation genre, I don't feel it's that way at all.
Right.
What are some of the criticisms you've gotten from those people that, would have preferred it be something else?
Well, I mean, the one review that's pretty scathing that you can find on the internet, the guy just didn't get it, and the way that I'm satisfied, unless it stings less, because the guy was so insensitive to just any person that might find themselves in a situation like that. It was like beyond the film. He was just like, if you found yourselves in the position that Victor finds himself, why wouldn't you just fucking kill yourself? And it's like, dude, like, really? Like, come on, man. I mean, yeah, the movie's sort of bleak, but like, it's not like, it could be worse. And especially Victor could come out of this. And dude, we have, we're talking on this fucking podcast right now. We've been
this is a day in his life. We don't know what happened 6 months from now.
Exactly. So I just fundamentally, I think, just like ideologically, I don't think that person, understood or agreed with the film at all.
Yeah, we're seeing Victor at a low point. Who knows if it's his lowest or not? Because sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. But maybe he's near rock bottom in this film. We don't really know that just from watching the film. So to judge him on that, I think is you're going above and beyond what's actually being showed to us.
Totally.
I think part of the tragedy of Victor is that, like a fish in water, like this is his situation, and he's pretty complacent. Like, even though he has this drive to try to get out of it, it's just like this is his comfort zone. This is what he knows, and it's maybe more comfortable to perpetuate it than it is to take those risks of following through with the behaviors that could get him out of it.
Right. Yeah, and it's very hard to put your finger on how one does come to that latter choice, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes it does kill you. Sometimes this life does kill you, but other times, and other times it's court appointed, and maybe you're lucky in that way. But then other times it just fucking hits you out of nowhere, man. That's how it happened with me. Nothing too dramatic happened. Recently. It was instant. Very unbidden. But,
I feel, especially in cocaine, crack and cocaine, it's more of the drug of the depressed, because you don't really, you don't have that total physical withdrawal as you would with some other drugs. It's more like, my life sucks so bad, I just want to keep on doing this because this is what makes me feel good. And that can change so quickly. It's not like you're on heroin and you're gonna go through 5 days of hell just trying to get off of it. So that I always, addiction to cocaine, I always took a little different view, and I think it's one of the easier ones that once you make that decision and maybe get some help, that you can really change your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I never did heroin. I did a lot of coke, and I really used to enjoy it. Sometimes I have a hard time not reflecting on it with a certain amount of glory, that's what led me to experimenting with crack for real. I mean, that does come from real experiences, the depiction in the film, but finding myself in these environments analogous to the ones you see in the film, I would be fraternizing with characters who, when you give them money to get you coke, they bring crack back, and that happened enough times where I was like, all right, man, I guess
or you might even get some drywall.
Right.
Some ivory soap or something.
You never know, man. You never know what it is exactly that you're smoking, but then from there I had gone through these not inconsiderable periods where I turned around and I had been like, wow, I've been like, I smoked crack a couple of times this week. That was probably a problem, but
because it's and I never experimented with crack. I've done a lot of cocaine, and you're addicted while you're high. That's where that addiction is, because you just want more and more, because that down part is like your world's ending, and that's what makes it so. That's what makes it so evil. Where you're like, you ran out and you're like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I have another $50. Why not go out? I'll call out of work tomorrow. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh God, that was so bad. Yeah, I mean, I felt like, I stumbled on, like, I don't know, the Holy Grail or something, when I realized, all you have to do is just drink it out of your system, or Xanax, like I was the first person to discover that. But yeah, that then became like, as long as I had enough booze on hand or downers or something like that, then that god awful feeling you just referred to, of coming down hard after doing a lot of coke, I was less fearful of that. You could just obliterate yourself. Then you have to deal with that hangover. Then of course, then when you do finally wake up,
Yeah, you do a little coke to get past the hangover.
Yeah. Right.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard not to look back on some of those times without thinking, oh, I had some good times. But then when you get analytical about it, it's like, yeah, that's a shitty time of my life.
Yeah. Well, there you go, because it's a shitty time in our lives, but we can't deny that we did have some good times. I mean, like, we're not. I think it's Train Spotting or something, right? One of the lines in one of his monologues or something is like, we're not stupid. We do this for a reason. It's an alternative to all those other, disheartening, soul-sucking things, that one could choose to engage in life, So yeah, it did feel good, I used to love just having conversations, talking about movies and stuff. I was actually a pretty magnanimous person when I was coked up,
Oh yeah, you could talk the paint off the wall.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about Arbor Day.
Yeah, so Arbor Day is such a unique experience for us. Definitely quite a departure from the experience on Victor, because it's been years. It's been years since we began the casting process, began shooting like screen tests and chemistry tests, since we began principal photography, and not too long ago wrapped principal photography. Tomorrow I actually have a pickup shoot for B-roll for the film. This has been this very cobbled together project, where I think my sister, after having worked on so many productions, got the bug and just said, Vin, let's do one together, And then Arbor Day was just this like weirdo little short script that came also from just like a number of little autobiographical experiences between even my sister and I and friends of ours, little fights we were having. It was during Trump's ascendancy as a political candidate, so it was definitely a unique time for everybody,
Yes.
Everybody was becoming politically interested overnight, so a lot of rifts were forming between us and friends of ours because of that. And so anyway, so I wrote this short, and then it just started to spin out of control. And then people liked it, but they said, it seems like there's so much more to be done with this. It might be better, more suitable as a feature. So I started working on that, and so yeah, I guess we began to conceive and kick around and mess with writing the short in 2016, and then. Tamara, are you over there?
Yeah.
When did we shoot? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna get some dates here. When did we actually shoot the scene of the celebration of life party? That was 2018 springtime.
I believe so. Yeah.
Because this spring will be 2020 spring, right?
No, the next one will be 2021.
Oh, because we're in the fucking summer right now. Oh my god. Wow.
This pandemic has totally, like, the older I get, the worse I have an issue with knowing where I am in time, because it's going so fast. And this is just an extra layer of surreal, bizarro shit laid on top of it. I no judgment, man. No
totally.
judgment.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. So anyway, it was not last spring, but the spring before. So it's already been 2 years since what we did was we took the biggest, most challenging chunk from the script. It was a long script. We were idiots for doing that, I think, honestly, in hindsight, but we still did it. And we said, let's shoot this. It's a 45-page scene. And yeah, no shit. Let's shoot this as a proof of concept, but let's pull out all the stops and make it really fucking good. And it'll be good no matter what. So we'll get money for it somehow, even though of all the things we're all good at, Jerome, Elena, everyone I know, none of us are good with money. None of us are savvy at drawing out these mysterious stakeholders, you know? So we shot this thing, and it was such a bitch. It was this 5-day shoot. Only 5 days to shoot 45 pages is not nearly enough. It was in an apartment that we were lucky enough to procure in Brooklyn. And, yeah, I mean, we brought it off, you know, we finished it, you know, and like there's the most like pivotal like points of the piece are pretty fucking great. But again, in hindsight, I wish maybe we would have saved that, you know, till after we were in some kind of groove. But anyway, the year that followed that, we did not, you know, we did not like raise these miraculous funds. We had shot our bolt with whatever money we raised on that film because we had done a Kickstarter, and we didn't make our goal, but a considerable amount of people who pledged gave us the money anyway, you know, which was great. So we used all of that money, and we took out credit cards and maxed those out to shoot this piece. And so a whole year passed by, and starting last spring, so spring 2019, we just said, shit, you know, we're not getting any younger here, and we're not getting the money we need that is ideal for this. So let's just finish the film. So we just went through, you know, a trying like half year from that spring to just this past fall of just rolling with all of our actors' schedules and crews' schedules, and we just piecemeal shot the rest of the whole film. And it's a long film. We shot 170 pages.
Jesus.
So we
Wow.
have that much film on our hands. That's what we're cutting now, you know. And I think that's honestly what happens without Jerome. The fact that Jerome didn't work on this script and this film, you know, I think maybe I allowed myself at too young a point in my career, carte blanche, you know. But I think there'll be a lot of movie magic that goes on in the edit, you know. But long story short, the film is about these group of 3 friends, and the piece that we shot first as the proof of concept is kind of how that's our departure point. That's how we pitch the film. It begins where 2 friends show up at this party. You very soon realize that the party is being thrown for one of them who has just been discharged from a psychiatric hospital. And you also quickly discover that there is some verboten thing, you know, that nobody's talking about, some kind of secret that the 3 friends are concealing. And ultimately the worst thing happens at the party, because that's just not what you do for somebody who just getting out of the nut house, throw him a party with all these people around. So he basically has an involuntary relapse and he does something pretty terrible, and is ultimately readmitted. And what follows, you know, is his experience there in the hospital, and then the experience of his friend and sister on the outside, who embark on a love relationship together. Little do they know, our main guy, Ray, our protagonist who's nuts, is planning an escape to expose this thing, you know, this unspoken secret, and take everybody to task in some way. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell. That's I think one of the more sellable ways of putting it, but it goes many different places. We kind of jump around a lot. The party, the reason why this party scene, this first big scene, we wanted to shoot first, conceptually, is that it's standalone, kind of works as a self-contained piece.
Okay.
But it takes place like in the middle of things. I like stories that open that way. And this is just like smack in the middle of this story. So then after this piece really, crescendos to this crazy climax. And then from there, we kind of decrescendo and we go back in time. We see a little bit of what led up to it. Then we see what the fallout of that was, And ultimately, it's just about the really focus a lot on the relationships of these friends. And,
Okay.
I think
so. It's not a slasher where a guy goes around murdering people who don't plant trees. Okay.
No. No, the Arbor Day title is very absurd. It's like Duck Soup or something. It's not. There's some meaning you'll see, when you finally see the film, but it's a pretty nonsensical title.
What genre would you put it in?
It is a similar genre as Victor, but just more like millennial friendly. It's
Like
definitely
a dark drama.
Yeah, dark drama comedy. It's definitely less. It's a little less diverse than Victor. It's pretty white.
Okay.
White ensemble of cast and and characters.
Well, definitely look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be pretty awesome, or I mean, it's going to be interesting, definitely, because it's we just have so much, and I think we're going to be able to play around. It's definitely going to be like more stylized than Victor, just simply because we are going to be jumping around so much. Victor was such a candid little piece, This is not going to be that.
with
Now,
the
go ahead, Steve.
piecing together budget to or taking the hiatus because of the lack of budget and whatever, and then just deciding you just got to pull the trigger and complete more of it. What compromises did you make? Like, what did you say? Okay, I got to nix this and this to get this next section done. What kind of fat did you trim?
Well, specifically, there was one scene that was pretty ambitious that we did cut from the script. So actually all told of like 170 some odd pages, we probably shot like 169 pages or something, So that was one specific instance, but I don't know, man. I mean, that's such a loaded question because it's all compromised. It's like we were like agreeing to potentially compromise fucking everything by doing that, and we did have to along the way, sometimes unexpected things, just dealing with like changing weather and like just not having.
Yeah, sorry, folks. I had a little technical issue there, but we're talking about Bone Tomahawk, and I know Vince was saying that he's a big fan of Zoller's films, which me and Steven have been we've talked a lot about as well.
Yeah.
But he did an article about the Bloodshock movie I did. And that was great, opening up Fangoria and seeing that Craig Zoller wrote an article about a movie I did cinematography on. That was wonderful.
That's great. That's wild, man.
And a few other of my friends, like I'm friends with Brian Paulin too, David is as well. And Brian Paulin did some underground gore films, and he did the old zombie film Bone Sickness, and he did Fetus and Cryptic Plasm, and Morbid Tales is an old film that he did back in the early 90s, a bunch of like an anthology, some shorts he did with a new wraparound. But I just like a few months ago, he was mentioning that from his web store, Craig Zoller made some purchases from him too. So Zoller is very much into the non-commercial filmmaker.
Wow.
Did you see Dragged Across Concrete?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I loved it. I was sort of astonished at the negative, like misdirected ideological reaction that it got.
I agree. I didn't understand. I don't get the hate that it gets because I thought it was an incredible film.
It
was very entertaining.
I mean, people watch The Sopranos. It's about a bunch of cold-blooded, misogynistic, racist murderers.
Wait. So maybe we're seeing even different negative criticism. You were talking about the content. People didn't like the content.
Well, people talked about how it glorifies dirty cops and shit like that.
Yeah, they were saying that. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I just saw
Yeah.
people saying that it was very poorly made. It wasn't entertaining, and that it was the pacing was bad. I loved it. I was enthralled to watch the thing from start to finish.
And it glorifies anti-Semites. I guess that's Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Right. Well, that you're going to run that risk no matter what when you're casting Gibson.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that talking about it glorifies racist cops had to do with Mel Gibson as well. If they casted somebody else.
Well, dude, of course it absolutely did, which makes it even more bullshit. Stephen, totally. Those criticisms about the craft and the pacing of the film, I don't even look at. That's that's what I really appreciate about his films from Bone Tomahawk.
That's actually the same criticism I heard about Bone Tomahawk. Is too long. It's boring. I think it was a well-made movie. There's no point in that I would really cut from it. I mean, if like say a distributor said, "Hey, we need to edit this film and we got to get it down to a shorter runtime," and we want to make it just a little more just like straight, action and lose some of the exposition. I get that. But I don't agree with it, but I understand that. But people just saying that it's a poorly made film and they don't connect with it. When I saw Bone Tomahawk, that I became a Zoller fan, even though there wasn't another film for me to go to. I said, I'm going to follow this guy.
Yeah, and then Cell Block came out.
Cell Block was awesome. It was fucking awesome.
Which I'm going to mention now. I don't know where this, we're kind of figuring out the lineup for some of these episodes and interviews. But we do have a giveaway for a Cell Block 99 4K Blu-ray combo disc that's going to happen. It might have already happened by then. You'll know out there. But stay on your toes because we're going to have a lot of cool giveaways, with Sadistic Cinema. So just be on the lookout if that's already happened or not.
And Bone Tomahawk might end up in there as well, right?
Oh, it is. I'm sorry. It's actually a Zoller giveaway with Bone Tomahawk and Cell Block 99.
Yeah.
And if we come across Dragged Across Concrete, we might throw it in there and just get the whole collection of Zoller. But yeah, I love that fucking guy. He's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I mentioned Sopranos. I thought Sopranos was one of the best shows ever made. I just find it arbitrary what people consider, what passes the test for certain people, what people consider okay to come home from church to watch, and Sopranos is on everyone's list as okay. And
I know from your name you have a little Italian blood in you. I'm half Italian myself, and it's so funny that we never complained that it kind of demonizes Italians.
Sure. Well, sure.
And I guess there's a few out there, but
totally, and I mean, Zoller got he got heaped upon with these accusations that he was like a straight up MAGA hat wearing, Trump guy, and that he was like you said, Dave, he was just glorifying this these characters who just were beating up on people of color, but they were just obviously just jumping on the most superficial reading of the film.
I have no idea what his political ideology is, but I never got that he was pushing agenda in any of his films.
No, and it's
And-
just In order to understand a character like that, you have to do a sympathetic portrayal like that, like in The Sopranos or.
And people are complex.
Yeah.
People are in gray areas. I find gray area stories my favorites.
Well, we were
if
talking. We
that
were
was
talking
true-
today about the Sword of Doom, which how amazing that film is, and you're just following a sociopath the whole fucking time. But the film's so brilliant, and I like
it
films.
never condones the behavior.
Yeah, Maniac is one of my favorite films ever, and it follows Joe Spinell the whole damn time being a sicko.
If Dragged Across Concrete was pro, what the critics were saying it was, they would not have had the subplot of the two assistant robbers, which one was Michael Jai White, and I don't know the other guy's name, who was the less beefier black guy, who was the assistant in the heist.
Right. He's the cousin or something of the lead. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really saw how and he was out of jail, and he was in a position where this was becoming an option for him, but it's not something he was seeking out to do. He didn't want to be involved in crime, and it painted him in a completely different light. It didn't say okay, this is a black guy who is a criminal, and this is what he is. All he is a criminal. It made no statements like that. It painted him as a very human, complex character that was touching on crime because of the hard realities of life.
Right.
And I think it did that for Gibson and Vince Vaughn's character too. Although maybe there were times when they reveled in, their abuse of power, but it showed this dynamic of all these different paths and how, they crisscross in the human condition.
Right.
Yeah, and me and Steven are both pretty, I guess pretty liberal guys, and we're both supportive of certain movements. And we're saying that from that perspective, even being totally against what they're saying his political ideology was in that film. So I'm not a MAGA hat wearing guy trying to justify it. I'm a guy who's anti all that stuff, and I'm saying I don't see it.
Totally. It's more, unfortunately, where's this political agenda, but it's more upsets me more as this puritanical reaction that still exists to
I don't even understand how that even can be out there.
Yeah.
And the puritanical used to be on the right, and now it's moved all the way over.
Right.
And
It's
on our side. Yeah.
I thought people like-minded as myself was against censorship as a whole, and it turns out that it's mostly the people I disagree with that are anti-censorship nowadays.
Well, totally. I have uncles and cousins who are Republican and conservative, and they're a bit older than me. And when I get ganged up on by them, that's what they use as their cudgel. They say you're a filmmaker. Who do you think are the first people who are going to turn on you? Your own kind. They're going to throw you under the bus if you do or say something in a movie. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll have to reckon with that when it happens. I just there's definitely an oppressiveness when it comes to the most extreme forms of political correctness. However, I don't think it's maybe the greatest evil facing the nation at the moment, because that's what they go, you know what I mean? Like they don't have much. Their argument doesn't really
I'll be honest. I thought it was at one time, or there's certain extremism on the liberal side that I was fearful of, very wary of, but it is the least of my worries right now.
Sure.
It's so weird. Like I've always tried to be non-political on the show, and not say anything. I used to be an activist. I used to give a lot of speeches in colleges, and I was on a constitutional debate team. That was a competition constitutional debate team in high school and into my college years and stuff like that. And did so much politically oriented stuff. And man, I don't know. This is such an unprecedented time that there's been some things I've spoken out about here and there, and I don't want to make it like this is the purpose of the show or this and that. But as creatives, as filmmakers, as people that are human and trying to survive, and as things have threatened all different types of our lifestyles, I've kind of had to call bullshit on a lot of things that I've seen. And
I think art should be immune to PC. It just, especially fiction. It's fiction. The PC world should not be in that discussion at all.
Well, let's even look at documentary. I think we should be able to make a documentary, through craft and use artifice to present real scenarios and actual history. And I don't think we should be forced to be put in a box that says we condone everything that is represented when trying to accurately portray a piece of history or an event at the same time.
Yeah, people just don't want you to say things they don't want to hear. And whether it be fiction or real, it be truth and facts, they don't want to hear it, unfortunately.
Right, and people just have no sense of irony either, that's why they see a movie like Dragged Across Concrete and they just pounce, and they assume, or they want to believe that, like you said, that they're condoning that kind of abuse and that kind of behavior. The funny thing is that now, in light of all this unrest now, there are all these cop shows being canceled, and the way that police are portrayed, there's this big overhaul that's in the offing, and a movie like Dragged Across Concrete really fits more into that agenda because it's more honest. That's actually that's a much more candid portrayal of the kind of behavior that people are so upset about, and rightly so. Yeah.
The way I look at it, if you were trying to make that political statement by glorifying dirty cops, you are being counterproductive because they're still fucking dirty cops.
Right.
And which brings up Bad Lieutenant again. Which I think is a powerful movie.
The 6 degrees of
hey,
Bad Lieutenant showed me that you could smoke heroin. I didn't know that until I saw that.
I tend to think that's wasting it.
Yeah.
But hey. Like going back to things like Bad Lieutenant, and which reminds me of the other film that we bonded about, Blue Collar. I wonder how Blue Collar would be seen with people today. I don't know anybody who has seen it in like millennials. I don't know a millennial who's ever seen Blue Collar.
Right.
Wait a minute. Okay. Now, there's some school of thoughts they would even say you're a millennial.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely cuspy. I'm cuspy.
Yeah, but I mean, when we were defining generations, I'm Generation X.
Well, 10 years now is like 20 years, 50 years ago. So I think you can't define it the same way.
But
my
will
wife...
say... Go ahead.
My wife would be technically a millennial, because she's 37. I guess that kind of puts you right there on the cusp as well. But she's not in that same mind frame at all.
Yeah, and my wife as well too. She's 36, and I think by the things I've read that she's considered a millennial, but she definitely has a Generation X viewpoint, and is the youngest of five girls, and grew up watching the art because her sisters are my age and some a little older. That she was exposed to these other things, and affected her coming of age, and put her in, a certain perspective. But yeah, Blue Collar, man, I think is an incredibly overlooked film. I know some millennials that have seen Hardcore, but
Right.
but not Blue Collar. I think it's I mean, I had to get a UK import to see it on Blu-ray. When we met, I only had that DVD of it, and then I found that Indicator import. The Indicator is a great UK company. I just got their version of The Border, and with Jack Nicholson and Harvey Keitel, and Wolf with Jack Nicholson as well, which is a limited edition disc. Yeah. I like Wolf a lot.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big Nichols fan.
Well, it's funny. I'm scared to put Porky's into my player anymore because I think the cops are going to show up.
Yeah.
Oh, so when we talk about horror movies that should make it into, influential things, David recently revisited Death Dream, or Dead of Night from Bob Clark.
The Black Christmas guy.
Yeah. Have you seen that one before?
No. I mean, I love Black Christmas, always have, but no, I don't know about Death Dream.
Death Dream is probably my favorite Bob Clark film. It is about a Vietnam vet coming home. The family's told that he's died, and he's still young. He's probably 21, 22, and he comes home and he's just totally fucking changed. It almost borders on.
I have seen it, but keep going.
It almost borders on a zombie film, almost kind of like an intelligent zombie, but it's just such a brilliant allegory is why I love it so much, and it's still effective today because
so well filmed.
Yeah, it's so well. The cinematography is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And folks, if you have not seen that film, that is such an amazing underseen horror film.
Totally. I totally saw the film. It's been a really long time, but I remember it now. I remember the look and the texture of the movie for sure.
They did a shot at the beginning of the film is showing they just found out that their son died, and mom is rocking in a rocking chair, and it's very dark. And then you see the lights of a big rig coming in the same frame, and it slowly dissolves into the big rig, and the camera POV as the rig's moving goes from the front to the side as it stops because the guy's hitchhiking to get inside. And like you see the shots, like how the fuck did they do this? It's just brilliant.
Yeah, man.
Well, I think the 60s and the 70s had some of the biggest, risks and things that was the next time that reaffirmed the modern vocabulary of filmmaking. There was stuff like Fritz Lang and D.W. Griffith that, started off the vocabulary of filmmaking from the beginning. But then there's, the new Hollywood, and Bob Clark is never mentioned in that, but I think he is part of that because he comes into the scene in the 60s and, story, how
we lost you a little bit there, Steve.
I just lost audio.
I got some weird feedback, but I was saying that Bob Clark is never really spoken about in the same class as or the same category as the new Hollywood like Coppola and Scorsese, but he's definitely he started in the 60s.
Because he was in Canada, man.
But, Christmas Story is such a part of our...
Sure.
Christmas Story is as much part of our American society and culture as Goodfellas and stuff like that, as quotability and things. but he is definitely incredible. And Black Christmas, dude, what is your background, Vince? Because it's giving me a total Black Christmas vibe. Like you're up there with Billy in the attic.
Oh shit! Yeah. That's one of our Arbor Day sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and when you started, I was like, and you moved over, and I saw the dude behind you, but at first, like, I saw like a little, the character that's right there over your shoulder, right there. I thought it was the girl with the plastic over her head.
Yeah.
You know
Well, you want to know something freaky? You know who that is over my shoulder?
who?
Me.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. That's the twist. I'm Billy. No, man, dude, that movie, yeah, I saw that at a pretty young age. You know, just to put a personal spin on what you're saying about Bob Clark's just overall influence to filmmaking, it had that on me personally. You know, like I saw Black Christmas probably around the time I saw Don't Look Now, and I was just starting to become very obsessed with films. And
Are they the same year? Like Don't Look Now, 73 or 74?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's 73.
I'll confirm that.
Yeah. But Black Christmas scared the shit out of me more than any other movie I'd seen before then. I don't think anything like that eye in the door, in the crack of the door that you just posted on Facebook. Nothing had affected me that way before that film. I was that whole, from that moment, from that image until the end of that film, I was just like traumatized by that, you know.
The POV of Billy coming up to the house and then gaining entrance through the attic is chilling. And especially when you know the movie and then you watch it again and then you see, you know, because it could be just anybody coming up to the house and then walking around looking in the windows, but if you know the whole movie beginning to end, and then you know what happens from here, this is the beginning of all the tragedy that's going on there. I tried to watch the new Black Christmas remake after that, and people love it. Some of them think it's superior to the original because there's a little more gore in it or whatever. But filmmaking
the first Canadian remake?
Yeah, not this newest PG-13 remake, which I have not seen. But
I would never watch that.
The unrated, it's the very like sorority empowered version, the new one. Yeah. But the Black Xmas, you know, remake from like 2006 or something like that, or whatever it is. It is there's some stylish photography, but none of it equals the photography in the original. And there was some really good gel lighting and some Suspiria-esque kind of Italian kind of, you know, color palette and some things going on in there. But so much about the film cheapens what happens in the original Black Christmas. I mean, that is one of the most influential films to me. And it's one of the best proto slashers. I love Silent Night, Bloody Night, not Deadly Night. I like Deadly Night too, but Silent Night and Bloody Night that Lloyd produced, Lloyd Kaufman, and it has Warnose in it. What's her name? She's in a lot of Lloyd's early films he produced. She was in Sugar Cookies with fuck, man, what's her name? That was in the really young hot chick in David Cronenberg's Shivers. David, help me out here.
I know Shivers, but I don't.
I know you're talking about. I don't remember her name.
And it's gonna be terrible. She's gonna be listening to this podcast, and she's gonna hear me forget her name, and it's gonna be terrible because I'm friends with her. We've been talking about working together for a few years. Lynn Lowry, excuse me. Lynn Lowry. I'm going to have to edit this, and I won't. I'll leave it because I'm human, and that happens, and my mind's a million places. But Lynn Lowry, who was in George A. Romero's The Crazies, I Drink Your Blood, and David Cronenberg's Shivers. she oh, what the fuck was I even saying? Where was that even coming from, Dave?
You were saying that she was perhaps in this Silent Night, Bloody Night film, which I have not seen.
No. Warnose is in it. She was in Sugar Cookies.
Gotcha.
So Warnose was in Sugar Cookies.
Eileen.
Eileen Wuornos. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And hold on, let me. Hold on, 73. She's one of Andy Warhol's stock company. And the guy who directed Silent Night, Bloody Night also did Sugar Cookies, and Lloyd produced both of them. Mary Woronov.
Okay.
And John Carradine is in Silent Night, Bloody Night too. But it's a very much a like Halloween kind of proto slasher, where Halloween, I guess, is the proto slasher that really is a slasher. And then Silent Night, Deadly Night is, from the Christmas holiday perspective, but a really good, weird, the person escapes from an asylum and then starts, body counting, all the people that it's knocking off as it's going through its hometown.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like that one. And the Black Christmas is the other one. I love all these like Christmas horror movies. The Silent Night, Bloody Night, Black Christmas, and You Better Watch Out, which is also Christmas Evil, which is John Waters' favorite.
Yeah.
I cut myself off. John Waters' favorite film ever. Yeah.
I feel that's more of a thriller.
Really?
I feel that's more of a thriller, don't you think?
Wait, when was that film made?
1980.
81, was it? Or
Really?
It was made in 80. I think it came out in 81.
It's a horror movie?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It's more of a character study. I feel it's more of a thriller.
It's a character study in the same way that Friday the 13th is. So it's
called Christmas Evil?
Yeah, Christmas Evil. That's what the DVD or the Blu-ray is. Vinegar Syndrome put out it most recently on Blu-ray. It is, and how would I guess it would be kind of like Maniac that is a character study. Like you see what the motivations are and the past traumas that drive somebody. But it's a guy and he works at a toy factory. He gets a promotion to be more of a desk job. And then he just gets really upset at everybody taking advantage of each other and him.
Well, you messed up.
During Christmas.
You forgot when he was a kid, he saw his dad dressing up as Santa, sniffing his mom's vagina.
That's a spoiler. That's a spoiler.
Wait, I want to see it though. Don't tell me everything that happens because
that's the first scene.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna send you a trailer that's I don't think it's an original trailer. I think it's like a fan edit trailer of editing the scenes where he kind of identifies with Santa and he looks at the kids in the neighborhood and he always walks by and he's like, hey Sally, what do you want for Christmas? Hey Joey, what do you want for Christmas? Like, I want a tin soldier, man, I want like a, an action figure or something. And then it's like, Mas Garcia, what do you want? He's like, I want Penthouse magazine. And he runs back and he writes like, Mas Garcia is naughty. Poor body hygiene, dirty thoughts, and it starts with that, and then
that sounds like John Waters. Yeah.
And then all the people in the adult world kind of get on his, on his list for how bad they treat each other and him, and then he, goes on a kill rampage.
Nice.
It's like Falling Down meets a Christmas horror film.
Yeah, very good, David. That's I think that's the best analogy of it I've ever heard. Yeah, I would say, it's more like a Falling Down.
Because it's not like a full-on slasher because it's a low body count, but it has horror elements. It's kind of all over the place.
And
but
it's a very psychological film.
I always thought Falling Down had way too little of a body count as well.
Damn, you're
Yeah,
hardcore, buddy.
Yeah, nowadays with AR-15s, you can get at least 20 out.
I was like, yeah, man, I can run around neighborhood with half a baseball bat and like fuck some people up. I don't know why.
They
Well,
should have had. He
Douglas
should have had his
old.
perk. They should have had him beat his own dad in a, crossing the street with a walker or something. They should have.
Jesus. And since we mentioned this, rest in peace, Joel Schumacher.
Oh wow! Did he just die?
Yeah, like a week ago.
Oh, get the fuck out of here! I totally missed that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell you.
And we've lost a few people this year so far, man.
I barely posted recently.
Ennio, we lost Ennio the other day.
Yeah, Ennio Morricone.
Schumacher is one of the most, not always in a way that I appreciate, but eclectic filmmakers ever. Right?
Yeah, he died right before Carl Reiner. I think I'm almost, because I posted about it like as soon as, here we go, June 22nd, man. So like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Damn, man. I've been watching a lot of movies of his because I've been, during COVID, been on a somewhat guilty pleasure, like John Grisham movie kick, and he did a couple of those, so I wound up watching, The Client and Time to Kill, and I think I might have done another.
I forgot he did.
And Jordan Peele's still healthy as hell. I don't understand it.
Well,
just shake his head.
He's not as old as Ennio Morricone. Like I'll just or Carl Reiner. I'll throw.
Yeah, but I could deal with 50 years more of those guys.
I mean,
Jordan
Jesus.
Peele.
Jordan Peele's younger than me, I think. He's got to be.
Yeah,
is he? He's been around he's back in Mad TV days, so I would say he's right there around 40 to 45. I could be wrong, but he's been around for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his films at all.
No,
I take it you're not either.
No,
no, I'm not a fan of his films, but I think his sketch comedy is brilliant.
I love his sketch.
Yeah, he's 41. He's 41.
That's why I was so excited to see Get Out, because
I was too, and I was very disappointed.
Really liked him. Yeah.
Like when you go back and you look at the sketch comedy and you look at like the Gremlins 2, like he's the sequel doctor. Have you seen that one?
No.
I don't
like
think I've seen that
he
one.
plays a character that's kind of like you remember Mannequin?
Yeah, the film.
Yeah, and like the Hollywood, with the obviously gay window dresser designer, with the crazy glasses and the cool new wave style. Like he plays a character like Hollywood, but he comes in. He's like, okay, I'm the script, the sequel guy, and he's like, okay, Gremlins 2. Like what are we gonna do here? Everybody make up a gremlin, and somebody's like, how about electricity? He's like, are you saying a gremlin made out of pure electricity? Like he's lightning, he comes in and out of the phones and stuff. Okay, in the movie, and it's just this like hilarious skit about how Gremlins 2 happened, and then like especially a lot of their skits that are about filmmaking and storytelling are really funny. But honestly, I find about everything they did in the series hilarious and very well thought out and very timely. And
I find the lack of logic in Us to be hilarious.
I didn't see it. I didn't like Get Out at all. I was so disappointed with the movie, and then I grew to really hate it because of how
celebrated it was.
Yeah,
he didn't have.
Everybody went ape shit. I was like, what? Like, have you guys ever seen a horror movie before? Like, this is
no. And for people to say it was the best horror movie ever made.
Oh,
that was like, I was like, oh fucking come on, man.
You know what?
It's like, and if you're saying that, if you're saying that because he's African American and he did something that is kind of cutting edge, if you will. Have y'all ever seen Ganja and Hess by Bill Gunn? He's like the fucking it's like an Orson Welles type of effort coming from blaxploitation cinema and Afrocentric 70s film. And Bill Gunn's Ganja and Hess is incredible. In fact, I've never seen the remake, but Spike Lee just remade it called The Sweet Blood of Jesus. And I've not seen the remake, and I don't know if I'm going to, because the original is so awesome. And if you look at my Facebook page and you see like the horror movie challenge, and I think it was day 2, there's a guy who's nude, or he's shirtless, and he's nude in the movie, but I think you just see him from the waist up, and he's pointing a revolver at his heart. That is Bill Gunn in playing a bit part in his movie Ganja and Hess. It stars Dwayne Jones from Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, nice.
And, it's incredible. It is such a powerful movie. It is so literate, and it has one of my favorite scores of all cinema by Sam Winan, who is it's a gospel score, and it is incredible.
Wow,
it's so experimental and haunting and gospel. It's just incredible. I almost think you should just stop there.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Yeah, I'd like to see this. Yeah. I mean, listen, I thought that whatever was cutting edge about Get Out, I was prepared to appreciate. I don't think it was cutting edge enough. I don't agree with the white fragility response to the film. I thought it should have been harsher. I thought it should have went way deeper, and he should have fucking.
Did you see the original ending before
No.
he changed it?
No, I heard about it, but that doesn't.
The thing
count.
is that I wish he would have had the balls to stay with his original idea.
Sure.
And he tried to say, well, it was now because I wrote it when Obama was in office, and I think racism needed to be pointed at more strongly. And now that Trump is in office, we needed more of a happier ending. And now we see how shit is right now.
Yeah.
I was like, I want a movie that makes me think and punches me in the gut like that. And if you're trying to make a political statement, it would have been so much stronger than to have comedy relief at the end of the movie.
Yeah, fucking A, dude. And, that would have saved it. That would have saved it a little bit. But I still think the whole thing, I just remember being thoroughly, just bored and not.
I felt like I'd seen it before, and it took out from
It's called Stepford Wives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The original
It's
Stepford
fine.
Wives.
It
Anybody?
was just reduced to a hackneyed, abduction thing where he's tied up and he gets out and beats up all the bad guys. Nobody who you care about even really gets hurt in the movie. It's like nothing. It's very inconsequential. The whole.
There's no loss. There's no loss in the film at all.
Totally. The concept's really cool, man. That's what brought me to the theater. Very excited to see it. Like we were just saying, big fan of him as an actor, as a sketch comic. But yeah, I was just like, I mean, then when I used to play the horror movie card, which kind of goes counter to a lot of the stuff we're talking about, because not everything can be put inside a box. But when I would find myself disagreeing with people and say that, well, it's, I've seen a lot of horror movies, that would the card I would play. The people say, well, it's, really more about the commentary. It's not necessarily a horror film,
Yeah.
I would be like,
Dead was,
yeah, yeah, right. That's fucking great. And I was like, dude, that's fine. I like the commentary, though. The commentary is not what I'm criticizing. And
that's the problem with people when you say it's not a good film.
Yeah.
They think you're criticizing his political perspective in the film, which
they
I'm not
don't
at all.
understand that you're criticizing craft.
Execution, yeah.
And then the opposite, I'm seeing all this backlash against the Serbian film, and people criticizing the skill of filmmaking in it.
Yeah, that's it's a pretty slickly made movie, though.
I think that's what impressed me the most.
Yeah.
Was it wasn't some faux snuff film, that it was actually a real well-made production, and I thought that
badass.
Yeah. And then, the opposite, feeling of the other, like there's this other film that's supposed to be so original and supposed to be so awesome, and I'm just feeling kind of lackluster about it.
Totally lackluster. I don't know how the fuck that movie won best screenplay. You know?
So Us,
Yeah.
I bought Us. I didn't see it in theater.
I saw it in the theater.
I was really busy, but I bought it on 4K on release day. So I went to the store, I brought it home that night, and we watched it. And in the first act, I called how it was going to end. I said it. I wrote it down in my phone, in my app, because I didn't want to.
Well, they give away
bother
the whole
anybody.
twist. They give away the whole twist in the first 10 minutes.
I agree. Yeah, they do.
I had a friend tell me what happened, so I don't mind if I know you don't want to spoil things on this, so I guess we'll leave it there.
Well,
but,
we'll spoil things that have been out for a while.
Right on. How about Don't Look Now though? We can't.
But I'll tell you, when I saw Get Out, I saw Get Out in the theater, and I think actually I was more. I was under the ether of the political statement he was getting across, and it took my second viewing to really get critical about the film. I watched it the first time, and I was like, I think he did a really good job. And then it started sinking in. I was like, I got to watch this again because I think the ether got me. And upon second viewing, it just falls apart. And Us, you don't even need a second viewing. Again, I saw it in the theater, and I think the theater gives you. I think the theater kind of cons you into liking something a little more than what it actually is sometimes, just because of the experience. Sure. But when you watch, and I've watched that again the second time, his films just unravel. There's no replay value in them at all.
Yeah, I totally feel you, man. I didn't even need to. I had a similar experience. Like, I wasn't so harsh on Get Out when I left the theater. I never did watch it a second time, but as it was still fresh in my mind, the more I thought about it, the more I talked about it, the more I was like, I really didn't like that. And then, of course, hype I just find so disgusting. So so that really, really, that made it real plummet profoundly in my estimation,
Now, I do give it to him. I guess maybe he's bringing more people into the horror genre. So looking at the silver lining,
right.
If he's successful, that's opening up more money for other filmmakers in the horror genre, maybe to get bigger budgets to work with. So I think that's helped. And it just like Hereditary and The Lighthouse has helped art house actually come to the theater. But other than that, it's mediocre to me.
Totally, man. That's it. Yeah.
And Steven, I'm watching you on camera, and you're just floating around.
He's doing Jacob's Ladder again. He's doing David Byrne in the Once in a Lifetime video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, totally. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well,
y'all like my background?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I've seen that somewhere before.
Would you like a drink? There you go, Victor.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've ruined Jordan Peele's career, he'll never get another job again because everybody is going to listen to us.
This is what we can do. Yeah. We can't, we got to just talk about these films.
I do root for Jordan Peele, though. I root for him.
I want to see him make a good film. I like him. Yeah. And I think that's why I dislike the film so much, is because I felt they were kind of lazy, honestly. Yeah. I didn't think they were lazy in execution. I think they were lazy in initiation of concept. And then, it was a well-made production, but the concept was lacking to me. Or the direction he went with it.
Well, Us never stood a chance because he got so disproportionately praised for the first movie. So he didn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? He just immediately had carte blanche to just do whatever. And I mean, I have not seen it, so I guess.
With Us,
but yeah.
In Us, I think he was more trying to put across symbolism, which was very ham-fisted. Right. That was more important to him than the plot, and actually having. making much sense at all. Because like you start thinking about it with any logic, in like 5 minutes, you're like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, fuck the symbolism, man. That should just come later, or that should be, if anything, should be ancillary to a story, even if it doesn't have a plot. You got to have a story there,
There's some extra layers of stories that I write that come in. It's because that I am fully immersed in it, and I'm obsessed with the concept, and it's always there in the background. Not that I intentionally forced it into something. It's just that I'm saturated in a certain type of experience or concept that no matter what I'm doing, it's there underneath the skin.
Right.
And then there's some aspects that I put in intentionally too, but I try to make them not be forced, and I think that's what it was. And they were definitely forced, and they weren't original either.
Well, with the end of Night of the Living Dead, you're already on board with Dwayne Jones' character. So when he dies at the end, you feel for him as a human, and then you start thinking about the social political symbolism and what's going on there, and that comes to your mind later on. And Romero said he never had that as a purposely done. They just picked Dwayne because he was the best actor. I've always found that to be absolute bullshit. I love George, but that there's no way in that time, in that era, he didn't see the political ramification from what he was doing.
So watch The Crazies. At the beginning of the pandemic, I put in The Crazies, and I was watching the how the governmental response to crisis was with the army coming in, and we were right at the time when we were doing the shutdowns and everything like that, and it was hitting pretty hard. I also watched Dawn of the Dead and a lot of the commentary from the talk shows. And the same character that's in Dawn of the Dead, who's like, dummies, dummies, dummies. He's talking about, culture and not wanting to, people were addicted to respecting the dead of their loved ones instead of disposing of. Hey, everybody, we had another segment of technical difficulties. I believe the server is overrun because so many bars and restaurants are closed. I think everybody's at home watching Netflix, which is messing with the server at the moment. But, we just want to thank Vincent Turturro for being here, talking about Victor Goodview and his upcoming film Arbor Day, and talking about Rick and Leslie. It was Rick and Leslie? Is that what it's going to be called?
No, Jerry and Rick it's called.
Yeah. Jerry and Rick. Yeah. Oh, Leslie. Leslie is the sequel going into that, of course. Jerry and Rick. And David, do you want to sign us out here?
Well, folks, you can catch us on Facebook in our Sadistic Cinema community. We run that group. We have a lot of fun there. Also, our fan page, Sadistic Cinema. You can reach us on Twitter at sadistic_cinema. Also, email us. Any filmmakers want to get in touch, book a show, or you have any questions, it's sadisticcinema@gmail.com. And Vincent, thanks again for coming on, man. Really enjoyed your film. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, I had a hell of a time. Nearly 4 hours deep. It was.
Well, thanks again, man. Yeah. And we'll try not to. Next time you come on, we'll try to have a better server connection.
No, you kidding? No.
Yeah, well, you have to come back on when we get a chance to see Arbor Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, man. Well, folks, this has been Sadistic Cinema. Have a great evening. Look out for our next episode. Good night.